everyone. I'm Miss Heather from the Tewksbury Public Library, and today we will be talking about cursive handwriting. Cursive handwriting is really important to learn. Not only does it help you learn how to read old historical documents, but it also helps you be able to write faster and write without really thinking as much. When you're writing with cursive, all of your letters connect, and so that really helps your pen or pencil to flow across the page because you don't really need to pick it up as much. They're all connecting, so you can just keep your pencil on and keep on writing. So it's a really great thing to learn, especially if you're someone who likes to take notes in class, like write down what the teacher is saying. And so that will help you to not have to really think about how you're forming the letters, but instead you can focus on what the teacher is saying and just let your hand do the work of writing the notes down. So today we'll be talking about lowercase letters. We'll do about half of the alphabet today. We're going to be doing them in a different order than A to Z. It's a little bit easier to learn cursive if you are able to break it down into learning how to make certain types of letters. So we'll get into all that. We'll talk about how to form all those letters and a little bit more about cursive as well. So you don't really need too much to get started writing in cursive. I have a piece of paper here. I have some tape here as well. Sometimes it's a little bit easier to tape down the paper when you're learning to write cursive because you don't have to worry about holding it as much and you can just really focus on what your pencil is doing on the page. I also have a pencil with a special writing grip, and this grip helps me to remember where to put my thumb on this bigger part, where to put my pointer on the smaller rounded part, and where to line up my middle finger on this groove on the other side. So this will help me to make sure that I have a good writing grip while I'm writing in cursive. It's important to make sure that you do have a good grip when you're writing because that helps your handwriting to be a little bit more clear, a little bit more legible. And I also have my cursive letter sheet here as well. So this is all you really need for writing in cursive. And we are going to go ahead and get started writing the letter C. So you can go right on your page, start at the bottom line, and you're going to draw a little bit of a tail, and it goes up and it curves up to the top of the next line, and then it curves right back down. To make a letter C, you want to have a little tail in the front because that might be connecting to a letter before it. Little tail in the front, curl up to the top line, and curve right back down. And you have your C right there. So let's continue going across the paper, making our letters C's, and practicing. Until we have a whole row of the letter C. The next letter we're going to learn is the letter A. And this one, as you can see from the C, this one is also very similar to how it looks in a regular printed letter, except this one has a little tail on the front and the back as well. So a little tail starting at the bottom, it curves up to the top and back down and back up to make the A, and a little tail so it can connect to its next letter. So let's again go across the page, making all of our letter A's, starting at the bottom, sliding up to the top line, rolling back down and right back up again to the top, and bringing it right back down to make that connecting tail. And again, just filling your page with A's. I recommend starting slower and then going a little bit faster as you practice and feel more comfortable. Once you have all of your A's, the next letter we're going to learn is the letter D. And this one, again, is very similar to the C and also the A. And again, we'll add a little connecting tail in the front, make your D, bring it up to the top, and slide right back down. And we'll do that all along the page, making our letter D's. And you want to make sure that it gives enough space to go back up so that you can really tell that it's a D, because you don't want it to get mixed up with your letter A. And get your D's all drawn on your page. And maybe you want to take a little break and you can wiggle your fingers. Next up, we'll start with the letter G. And so the letter G has that connecting tail because it might be connecting to another letter before it. And we make our G, and this one comes all the way down, makes a loop, and it makes a little connection on the side as well. So our G looks sort of like a regular G, a little bit more fancy because now it has this nice loop at the bottom. And remember, just roll your pencil over, back down, back up, and down and over, making that nice loop there. And get your page all filled in with G's. I think I can fit one more here. All right. And again, if you need to stretch your fingers a little bit, we're doing something different, so your muscles might feel a little bit different. You might need to stretch a little bit more, and that's okay. The next letter we are going to learn is the letter Q. So this one is very similar to the G, except our loop kind of goes on the other side because the G curves this way while the Q curves the other way. So let's take a look and try out the letter Q. So I've got my connection tail, I'm riding up and back down, sort of making that letter A actually, and back down, and this time my loop is going to go this way. So I'm bringing it back up, meeting the back side, and giving it another little connection so it could connect to the next letter. Sometimes, a lot of times, with a letter Q, the next letter to follow is a letter U. And we're just going to focus on Q's for right now to feel comfortable working with the Q. It's important to go slow, important to practice these letters. And it's okay to put your hand back on the page if you need to make it a little bit more stable. That's a really good trick to use. All right, next up is our letter O. This one again is very similar to its regular letter O, and to make it a little bit more fancy, because cursive tends to look a little bit more fancy than printing does, this one has a little loop in it. So let's give that a look. We're going to make our O and then give it a little loop so we can connect to its next letter. And don't make that loop too big. You don't want it to get confused with another letter. I think I made mine a little too big right there, but that's okay. I'm practicing, so I'll just make another one right there. I like the size of that loop a lot better. I think it's a little bit more clear to people that that's an O. And that's the goal of handwriting, to make sure that you are able to communicate through writing. You want people to be able to understand your ideas, and you also want to be able to understand your own ideas. So it's important to try to write neatly so that you are able to record your ideas and then look back at your ideas and then go ahead and share those with other people. Our next letter that we'll be learning is the letter E. And this one is very similar to our regular print letter E, except this time it's a little more slanted and it has a little tail at the front. But otherwise, just like our regular friend, letter E. We've got our line coming from the bottom, rolling up, making that loop, hit the ball, run the bases, and then got our E. Oh, I made a regular E right there. That's a little funny. I'll keep that, that's okay. And I'll just make my next one a cursive E. All right, once you've got a whole row of E's, we can move on to the letter L. So letter L and the letter E sometimes look a little bit similar in cursive. When you're making your letter L, it's going to have a loop in it, but you want to make sure that loop's really thin and that it's really going up and down, whereas the E's loop is going a little bit more horizontal, side to side. The L's loop, you want it to go more up and down. Really making sure you're using both the bottom space and the top space of your line. And really filling up that line with your L's. And those L's, just like our other letters we've made so far, are going to travel right across our page. We've got all our letter L's. And the next letter we will be working on is the letter I. So this one has a connection tail in the beginning and the end. And you just go up to make the I and come right back down and a little tail in the front. And you dot the I after you're done writing the whole word. If you were writing a word with the letter I. Right now we're just doing the individual letter, so it's okay to go right back and dot the I without finishing the line. And there is our letter I. Up next is the letter T, and this one is similar to our regular T. It's got the little connection tail in the front, and we're sliding all the way up to the top line, sliding right back down, making another connection, and then we'll cross our T. You can see my first T is not as slanted as my other T's are, and that's because I made a little bit of a mistake in writing that first letter T. So really want your T's to look a little bit more like this one here. You can have a little bit more space in between than I have in this one. And because there's no loop in it, and it's got its cross right there, this one should really be clear to anyone reading what you wrote, that this is a letter T. All right, if you'd like, you can go ahead and stretch your fingers again, and we'll be moving on to the letter U. And that's what the letter U looks like. It's got a little connection in the beginning that goes up to the top line, right back down to the bottom line, back up to the top line, and straight back down to meet the bottom again and make that connection. U. And again, make those U's all the way down your page, becoming more comfortable with writing them as you progress. The next letter we'll learn today is the letter W. W looks pretty similar to the U, except we're going to bring up this last one to make the last part of the W, and then the connection tail for this one is a little bit different from the rest of them. This connection tail for the W is going to be near the top line. So let's take a look and see what that top line connection tail looks like. So starting from the bottom line, got our connection tail, we're riding up to the top, right back down, and right back up to the top, and right back down, and back up one more time, and making that connection tail out the top right there. So let's try that again. Down, up, down, up, down, up, and over. Down, up, it's okay to say the way that you should be making the letter as you're learning and practicing. That sometimes it helps you remember how to form a letter a little bit better. And there are our W's. So we have just 2 letters left to learn today. We'll be learning the letter J and then the letter P. So the J starts from the bottom line and it goes up and it slides back down and makes a loop and it goes over. And just like the I and the T, once you were done writing the whole word, then you'd go back and you'd put the dots or the lines where you need them. But because we're writing just the individual letters, it's okay to put the dot on right after you're done writing it. So this is our letter J. It's got a connection tail coming up here. You can come up to the top if you like, slide all the way down, make that loop and over for connection tail, and that dot as well. The last letter we'll learn today is the letter P. This one is very similar to the J and starts off in that same way, makes that same loop, and then when we get back up here, we actually keep going and bring it up and down to make the P, and then out to make that connection tail. So let's try that again. It slides up and down. Here's our J, but we're going to keep going up and around and over and back out to connect. So our J, up, over, in, and back out. Let's keep going with our P's all the way across the page. Up, over, in, out. Up, over, in, out. And there you have it. So those are the letter P's. And I've got my other page here of the other letters that we worked on. So you can see we did just about half of the alphabet today. So today we talked about cursive handwriting and why it's important. We learned a little bit about how to make some of the letters. We learned about half of the lowercase letter alphabet. I hope that you will continue to practice these letters. It's really important to practice because it helps to build up the rhythm and helps you to be able to write more quickly the more that you practice. Thank you for watching today. You can subscribe to our channel so you don't miss another one of our videos. We'll have another one about cursive handwriting next week at 2 p.m. as well. Thanks again, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye.